Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this January afternoon for our social studies webinar. We have a wonderful panel of folks here today. Share my screen. And so this is the social studies webinar. My name is Dr. Alice Lee. I'm the Director of Secondary. And we also have Dr. Susie Wiley, Director of Elementary, here with us today. We just want to say a special thank you to our principals at the elementary, Angela DeSalva, Lisa Morrell, Kelly Dunn, Jenny Rooney, and from our intermediate school, Mike Blois, Kevin Kojaki, Peter Sparks, Michael Farrell, Jessica Tall, Danny Barbara, Joseph Ryder, and it's the high school, Logan Tutel and Tesha. Thank you all for joining us today.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I just am going to talk a little bit about sort of the themes that cross the K-12 social studies. And so when we talk about social studies, we're not just talking about history, that is a component of social studies, but we're also teaching a little bit about civics and government. We're also teaching about economics and geography. So I teach a history class and I'm teaching the history, but I'm also teaching components of those other areas. And so just wanted to let everybody know that there are broader themes in our social studies curriculum. It's not just history. And I'm going to pass it now to Kelly.
Okay, so currently we are, our board approved curriculum is the history social science for California, which was back in 2007. So we are currently piloting the Studies Weekly and the Teachers Curriculum Institute, which is also called, we call it TCI. Studies Weekly, we started in October and we are going through December, or went through December, and it's a newspaper style where we read, discuss, highlight. Sometimes we show a little brain pop video or something at first. And then we do an activity with it, such as like a math worksheet, flip book, teaching posters, some group work and things like that. At the end of each unit, there's an assessment piece that we work with the students to complete, and they're a little bit tricky. It was a little tricky. TCI is, we started January, so we just started, and we're going through March for that pilot. And that is also reading videos, there's group work, and there's a workbook that goes with that one. And there's a slideshow that's ready to teach from, which is really nice and makes it a little easier. End of the unit, there's called a processing assessment. And it's a little different than the Studies Weekly. Our next steps are going to be to solicit feedback from the pilot teachers through meetings, parents through surveys, and then students, however that looks. And then we're going to select a curriculum to present to the board for approval. So it'll be one of those, hopefully.
And now we're going to send it over to Jenny Rooney. And Jenny will ask you to unmute, please.
Sorry about that. So these are simply the overarching themes of the content standards for each grade level. If you want more specifics, then you would go to the content standards on the CDE website. Mostly what we want you to recognize or look at right now is that the current standards were adopted in October of 1998. So we're looking at new materials that integrate the history social science framework that was adopted by the state in 2016. So we kind of need to get going on it. And that's all I have.
Hi, my name's Kevin Kochaki. I'm a middle school social studies teacher at PBIS, and this is our new book that we are using this year. It's the McGraw-Hill Impact on Social Studies from 6th to 8th. It's more detailed, more thorough, more rigorous than our previous book, and it's been good. The kids have an online access to it as well, and a hard copy at school and to take home. And the the middle school standards cover 6th grade, the ancient world. If you could go to the next slide, I believe. 7th grade, which is world history, and 8th grade, which is US history. It goes in chronological order, and it's really fascinating content. I know for 7th grade, we do a lot of geography because it is world history, and we really do go all over the world, as you can see, from Rome to the Renaissance, Enlightenment, the Americas. 6th grade, more ancient, and then 8th grade. I guess, Peter, you can speak to the 8th grade curriculum.
Yes, using the new book, I'd say the jump in rigor from the old book, the 6th and 7th grade book, was a much bigger leap than the 8th grade textbook was, and in my opinion, I like the new book. We begin with colonial history. We run through it, the Civil War being a very big piece of the 8th grade, the Constitution, of course, and up to the Gilded Age. So, and frankly, they're supposed to remember all this stuff that we taught them in 8th grade. And when they get to 11th grade, then it's pretty much 20th century stuff with a little bit of review, but I'll let the high school teachers speak to that. But yeah, we're piloting the new book. Some of us started it last year. Some teachers are doing it for the first time this year. And hey, it's been a long, long time since we've had a new book, and it was long overdue. And so we're getting familiar with it, aligning our assessments with it, meeting at least once a month in our collaborative team group with the social studies teachers across the grade levels, and sharing our best practices. And things are going well so far at PBIS. So thank you.
All right, this is me again. So at the high school, we have a number of different social science classes that the students can pick from. There are some required classes, which is your world history, your US history, and then your Gov Econ. And then we also have a number of electives, which you can see over there. So there's that broad spectrum of our social sciences with the AP Psych and the human geography and the sociology and the advanced philosophy and religion. Some of those are year classes, those electives, some are semester, but all of our, and then also our Gov and our Econ are also semester classes, but the world and the US are yearly classes. Can I get you to flip to the next slide? Thank you. Peter was sort of laughing that he thinks everybody forgets their US history by the time they get to 11th grade for US history. But the nice thing is that our world history curriculum starts with a growth of democracy and the Enlightenment. And so as a world history teacher, I get to ask them to recall what they learned in 8th grade and to make those connections sort of more globally. And so it's really fun, I think, for them to see that they're not just learning something in a silo, that there is a continuum. So the world history curriculum, which is mostly taught to 9th and 10th graders, picks up where their 7th grade timeline left off. And we go from the Enlightenment through the Cold War to the present day. Sort of depends on how quickly people teach and what else sort of happens along the way in terms of our pacing. Our 11th grade year is our US history. We pick up where the 8th grade leaves off, and again goes through the present day. And then our senior year, we offer a semester of American government and a semester of economics. The American government, the first unit there is a review of what they've learned in 11th grade. And then it goes on to look at the role of parties and voters and mass media on government. And then our economics courses provide a basic understanding of principles, the supply and demand, scarcity, competition. And then also in that class, a lot of times they'll do a personal budget or even an investment project. So to really be a little bit more real world and hands-on there. So those are the curriculum. That's the curriculum for our required courses for graduation.
Can I add, Logan, into that? Hello.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tasha Barton. Sorry I was late. I was having some technical difficulties. On that same note as Mrs. Chattel had brought up, with American government, we also add some hands-on as well, and that builds into the newest certification that we have that will be that we're rolling out regarding civic engagement. So we're really trying to have real-life applications to all the courses at the high school level.
So we were lucky enough to be the first sort of group that got to adopt new textbooks. We started our pilots in 2019 and then adopted in 2020. We are currently piloting our US government and economics, and then our last subject area where we will be adopting new textbooks is AP US history, and that will be in the fall. Just like our middle school, our students have a hard copy textbook, but they also have access to the online materials. And so that is an e-textbook, but it's also activities that take the students deeper into the content. And there's really just fun stuff they can drag and drop. There are things where they can click on pictures and more content pops up. So the online stuff is very much geared towards a 21st century student.
And I'm going to piggyback again on you, Logan. But what we have found when we're piloting that when it comes to reading comprehension, that the students are benefiting more from the hard copy textbook as to content. And so in the department leads at both campuses, we have emphasized the importance of having textbooks for every student. And that's almost, it's equally important to the 21st learning, utilizing Chromebooks and technology to supplement. But the hands-on textbooks, when we've surveyed our students, they have all said, I shouldn't say all, I would say the majority of them have said that the hands-on, the actual book is it's easier for comprehension.
Tesha, thanks for adding that component. I would agree that the students definitely enjoy, well, I don't know if enjoy is the right word, but I think that they prefer reading a hard copy than an online copy for sure.
Yeah, and then on that same note, what science is showing us is that in regards to the eyes, that the book is less pressure on the eyes. And you all probably, I mean, from COVID, shoot, I can't go anywhere now without glasses. And it might be part of age, but I also know that it's part of that screen component. And the students' eyes are shot as well. So whatever we can do to preserve our youth's eyes, I am all in favor of. And I think it's a good investment to continue to have the hard books.
I like that it's not just me with the glasses. So I know I'm going to get some help from my elementary friends when I talk about some of these skills. Really, when we look at social science, you know, it's a little bit different from math or world language, where you are learning building blocks. So what you learn in 6th grade math, you're using to be successful in 7th grade math. There's not necessarily that same approach to social sciences, except with the skill. So there's not a content building block, but there are definitely skill building blocks. And so over a K-12 student experience, they're going to be learning these skills, honing them, and certainly by the time they get to us at the high school, digging a little bit deeper. And so I've already sort of, like, for example, talked about map and globe skills and geography, that really is across the board, that students are learning those skills. So I'll just pick out some of these, and then my elementary friends can again jump in. So one of the things on here is identifying bias and point of view. That's what we mean by POV. And so what we look at there is when we are reading a speech or a document or a letter to the editor, that we look at what we know about the person who wrote it. What is their occupation? Do we know anything about their religion? What part of the world are they from? What's their gender? How might that influence what they're saying? And why is that important? What additional information can that tell us about the time period that we're studying? Another thing right above that is we look at primary and secondary sources. A primary source is one that is from the time period. A secondary source would be something after the fact. So at the high school, one of the things that we do is we look at what historians have said, and we look at maybe a historian that wrote in the 1920s versus a historian that wrote in the 1980s, and look at what they have said about something. Or a textbook is a secondary source. A diary entry is a primary source. And so it also helps us to better understand what was happening at a particular time by looking at all of them, the secondary and the primary, and getting as full of a picture of the time period as we possibly can. Another skill on here is media literacy. And really what we're trying to teach the students there is how to make sure you're picking the best online source to help you with your research. So not to use another student presentation that got posted 5 years ago, and that student is an elementary student and you're a high school student and you're going to look at that for information. And so we talk about, here are some, this is how you know what a reputable site is. If it's a .edu, if it's a .org, those are good signs. And a lot of times the history teachers or the social studies teachers are working in conjunction with our librarians, our media specialists on campus. And then lastly, this critical thinking, we're looking at what we call the historical reasoning skills. And that's just a fancy way of saying cause and effect, change and continuity over time, compare, contrast. So what are the similarities between these two things? What caused this? What happened after this? And I think really what all of us who teach the history classes, what we want our students to understand is that these things are not happening in a silo, that they have been impacted by the things that have come before them, and that they have an impact on what happens next. And so when we do those real world applications, whether it's a project or a budgeting or talking about current events, that the students know that there's some sort of connection to our history, whether that's a shared history or a new history that we're learning about. We really want them to understand that it's a gigantic puzzle, and it's not just individual pieces that we learn, this and this and this and this, but that they all fit together in different ways. So I'm going to turn it over to, I didn't know if anybody from elementary wanted to weigh in on some of this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we can weigh in. So I'm Angela, I'm the principal of Vista Grande. To kind of like, I guess, sort of back up a little bit, what we're looking for in our elementary is we do a lot of group work. We do a lot of work together, and that really builds the collaboration skills that we're looking for in our kids. We're doing more building block skills like beginnings of research, beginnings of note taking, beginnings of presentation skills, so that we are exposing our students to, how to do that in a nice way with like the scaffolding supports in place as they get older and as they get into the more critical thinking skills and the more intensive content areas. They have that background to build upon and keep going forward. So that's what we're kind of looking for at the elementary level.
And again, helping them identify what is it that we're looking for. How can we make our own judgments about bias, about point of view? How can we look at what's come before is influencing whatever event we're looking at. Also, again, helping them analyze what's the point of view from the primary source. What about the secondary source? Does it come from a family member? Are they retelling a story from a family member, or is it something that they have looked and made some kind of judgment about based upon a newspaper article or whatever? So we're just, getting them to begin looking for differences and how they can then analyze and come to their own point of view.
Can I jump in real quick for the 8th grade and middle school about the same topic? Can you hear me?
Yes, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just want to, the identifying bias and point of view, I think it's so important. These kids come to us and they'll basically, whatever story we tell them, it's the gospel. And what I tell my kids, and I think is very important, is history is an interpretation of the past. And what kind of baggage do these primary source personalities have in their head? Where have they been? Who are they? What are their life experiences to have them come to this conclusion about what happened in the past? And math, 2 + 2 is 4, at least it used to be. And in history, it's an organic, there's new pieces to the puzzle being found, the story changes. And with all this misinformation and disinformation and information overload, and these kids are on the internet 24/7, I think it's so important throughout their lives and throughout education and going into high school that, they don't just blanketly believe because it's there, they read it, they gotta ask questions. They gotta find out who's writing the story, who is this person, and how did they come to this conclusion? And to me, that's what makes history so interesting. Nobody told me that in 8th grade. I just said, oh, this is what happened. This is the way it happened, blah, blah, blah. Well, the fascinating thing about history is, how do we know that it happened this way? So I think that's a big piece of what we're trying to get across to our students is, how do we know what we know? And this guy sees it this way, this person sees it that way. So I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Okay. Alice? Alice,
Yes, it's your turn.
it's my turn.
Yes,
Okay.
this is you.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so rather recently, our district has been approved to be part of the Statesville Civic Engagement Program. And what this means is that our students who are diving into the area of social sciences are being rewarded for their research, their passion, their drive. And so the seal of engagement came from the state legislature to, as it says right here, to establish a seal to encourage and create pathways for pupils in elementary and secondary schools to become civically engaged. What does this mean? It means that we want to apply a hands-on practical component to the social sciences. So building on what my colleagues have just mentioned in regards to point of view and bias and going into media literacy, through research, through hands-on, through observation, through shadowing government employees, by attending court proceedings, by getting involved in environmental policy, for example. Our students are taking it to a higher level where it's not just opening up a textbook, doing a couple of worksheets, but it's actually hands-on learning. And so the state of California, I think in particular in the last 10 years, when we're looking at voting engagement and political parties and a variety of different things that have occurred, that we want our young people to be civically engaged to understand how the systems work. And it's not about right and wrong. It's about finding different perspectives and exploring the importance of democracy in the United States. And so ultimately, a student has to put in the work to get this recognition. And this work is based on the expansion of their knowledge and their practical skills. So there's 5 criterias that have to be laid out, and the students have to demonstrate excellence in civics education and participation. And this means that they have to understand the fundamental core of America's civic engagement, and that comes from the United States Constitution as well as the California State Constitution. So students can start this early in their high school journey, but it really is solidified by the time they take 12th grade 12th grade government. So students may earn a district seal, state seal of civic engagement, which will go on to their transcript, and we want them to earn it early enough that they can put it on their when they're applying for colleges, that it can be part of their journey. And that one of the universities and colleges can see, wow, this student is really engaged in the area of civic engagement, and this is a school that recognizes the importance, and they stand out above other schools. So it allows our students to have a little more uniqueness, that it's not just about their GPA, their SATs, ACTs, if it's a school that requires it. And it really shows that they have a deeper understanding that this isn't just studying history or economics or government and then to regurgitate it on a test, that it actually has more meaning to it. And so upon meeting the criteria, students will be recognized as at their senior level by the state seal on their diploma, and it'll be noted on the transcript. In addition, it's not just taking the part of the criteria, is actually a presentation as well to a panel of individuals, adults, who are able to engage in a question and answer situation. Very similar to what PV had years back with their senior project. But now we're bringing it full circle, that if you are interested in science, or you're interested in dance, or you're interested in other parts of the curriculum, you're able to tie it in to civic engagement. And so we're really excited about giving the opportunity for this. And I definitely, this is the core of my government class, where I call it Democracy Alive. So I'm very excited that the district is actually rolling this out at both campuses. Alice, did I get that okay so far? Okay, beautiful. All right, so we'll be rolling this out in a very brief period of time. March 3rd, the applications will be due. We did have a webinar regarding this. We know at both campuses that we're gonna have to do a little bit more marketing of this, but over time, I think it's gonna be it's gonna be a given, based on the fact that the social studies teachers are committed before this ever rolled out to understanding a real life application of social sciences. That just history is not just history. There's lessons that we can take and apply to the now as well as to the future. And then the presentations will occur a few weeks after the applications are due. And on these applications, they're going to have to, the students are going to have to show that they've met all the criteria. And for the most part, students who are in AP government at this point in time, in the first semester, as well as second semester, will be able to apply for this much easier than some of the other students, just because we're rolling it out right now. And so the presentations will occur March 20th to the 23rd. And I'm sure many of us that are on this webinar will be called to assist with those presentations.
Great, thank you so much. I wanted to jump in and just say a big thank you to our team here for their presentation. I know we got a lot of valuable information, and it's clear that we have fantastic things happening across our district K through 12, and it's great when we're able to see the alignment and the way that we have this continuity throughout. I know we had a lot of team members that came together to help make today possible. So thank you to everyone for being here with us. We truly do appreciate it. We have been monitoring the Q&A section. It's been very quiet. We haven't had any. We do have the question and answer down there. So if anybody didn't have a chance to write a question and wants to put something in, go ahead and we can try to answer that for you. We do have this webinar recorded, so we will download it and we will make it available on our website for people to view, and we can share the link with our schools as well in case somebody was not able to join us, but we really appreciate it. We have a webinar coming up again, February 16th. We are going to be sharing about our math curriculum, and we're going to be sharing about our math pathways, which we are excited about. So thank you again to everybody for joining us. We appreciate it. We hope you have a wonderful evening, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.